Hey, it's your girl Crypto Finally, and you're listening to Keyword Crypto Podcast.
All right, we did it. We got set up, sound check, and everything. Welcome to Keyword Crypto. Finally, happy to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Crypto Finally, you are an internet personality, a Twitter personality. You got your start in the crypto scene making fun videos about Bitcoin that were educational,
Yes.
right? That's interesting. So I've always loved the content creators that have the what is it? The sort of like, you know, like the people who come out to make the parodies, make the music, like Little Bubble, or I've always liked Biz Nachi's stuff. I think it takes a lot of guts to do that, right? Wouldn't you say so? I mean, it's like, do you think that that's just an easy thing for you to do, is make a parody about Bitcoin?
It's funny. So when I first started making those videos, and I do agree with you to a degree there. When I first started making those videos, I didn't have a presence in the crypto space. I had maybe 400 Twitter followers, and that was it. And so when I made them, I was really just putting a lot of fun and silliness all out there, and I didn't already have an audience that I was thinking about. I was thinking about getting into the crypto community. I was thinking about doing something fun and entertaining, but I wasn't thinking about the way that an audience or a following works. And, now I have a lot more followers. I have a lot more people who interact with my content. You sort of realize that they're a living, breathing organism. Your audience isn't one person individually. We are all sort of symbiotic beings in social spaces. And I know that was a really weird way to say this, but you start to sort of adjust and grow with them in that way. And it does become harder to do something outright ridiculous, or as ridiculous as some of my music videos might have been.
It's kind of sad as from an artistic standpoint to hear that, because I feel like JJ does music, I do some acting and some writing, and it's totally true. Like, the more famous you get, the less risk you're allowed to take. And I mean, we see a few artists occasionally who absolutely refuse to live by that and take crazy chances, and some go into obscurity because of it, and a very small fraction are able to maintain their status, their infamy. But it kind of speaks volumes about our society and our culture. And I wonder if other societies, like in Eastern cultures or in like South America or Africa, if that's also the case, because it just seems like we become so homogenized as artists that we can't take any risks. So, sorry, that sucks.
Well, what I was going to say too, even in crypto, and I think especially in industries like crypto and our specific community, because we are so new and just adapting to what it means to create content, what it means to be involved in the space. And that really hasn't yet been defined, that we find ourselves pigeonholing, not necessarily ourselves, but others into a category of what we see them putting out. And I was finding that with myself. So I love my music videos. I love them. They're funny. They're fun. And even if people hate them, they cannot deny that they watch them. People that hate them were downloading, embedding, and posting them on their own channels,
Oh, yeah. Totally.
And it's something to get involved with. It's entertaining. But I got sort of stuck in that domain because that's how people in the space were viewing me, because I was a new character and that's what I did. And so it took some slowing down on that end and ramping up in others to sort of break free of that. But that is something that I see happen in the space, especially with content creators and artists as well. Like Little Bubble, like you mentioned. Lil Bubble's a crypto rapper, right?
Yeah, he does parodies also.
No, I mean, I know who he is, but that's how we view him. I'm sure Lil Bubble has said other things, done other things.
Oh, right,
but
right, yeah.
Or
That's
maybe
his
he's
claim
just
we
too
are
scared
viewing him
to.
in that way because he's again so new, just as am I. We're new characters. And even in mainstream artistry, mainstream music, and culture, it takes a while for those artists to be able to sort of break out and expand to be a larger part of their personality. And so I think that we're seeing that happen a lot more now.
So you have your video Bitcoin and Media that's pinned everywhere. So if anybody wants to watch it, I think you should, because there's a lot of prescient comments in there. It's on your website, RachelSiegelNYC.com. It's on your YouTube. It's on your YouTube. It's on your Twitter. It's pinned everywhere. But you say some really important stuff in there about analyzing the space. And is that kind of what you want to take your brand or your is that where your interests are leading you to, is more of like an educator about the space, or somebody who's just kind of analyzing it and trying to get more information out there for creators, crypto creators, as well as just people who might be interested in advertising or just investing in a new space?
Well, so that pinned clip, I love that one. And the reason that it's actually pinned everywhere is because that talk is a historical look at Bitcoin and media over time up until the talk was given, which means the video itself has evergreen information that I want to give to people. Everything that I say in there is something that will always be true because it happened historically, as opposed to something that might happen week by week. And absolutely, I think it's important to educate people about these topics. So it's more than just Bitcoin in the media, but the sort of advancement of demographic expansion and exposure of the community to people who would not otherwise have been exposed to the community is something that I really do focus on. So I'm looking at the social spaces. I'm looking at how we operate, how we interact with one another, and how that sort of plays into our growth as a whole and our ability to attract people from the outside in. And I think mainstream media is a really fantastic example, but I really do take a grassroots look, even at places like crypto Twitter, and just the way that we interact with each other on a human level, because that's something that we haven't really broken through in the cryptocurrency space. We exist online.
Yeah. Do you, so from after watching that, do you try to comment on stuff, or do you try to more, like you said, present stuff that actually happened and just share it with the world? Because JJ and I tend to comment and go deeper into
I
layers
definitely
and
comment. The specific example you're talking about. So I would say that there are two very clear facets to looking at cryptocurrency from this point of view, which is one, the things that have happened, and looking at the things that have happened, how they affected us, and how to implement them moving forward. And then taking a look at where we are now and what we can do. So I think there is commenting, but there's also taking from a historical perspective.
because you made a comment that really kind of I didn't catch it at first, and then it kind of stuck in my head. Was you were talking about the 2017 bubble, and before that you were saying the target audience was the audience that made all the money. So in the early days of crypto advertising in TV shows to nerds and to techies and all that stuff, that was the target audience, and that was the audience that actually made money in the 2017 bubble. All the people who came later lost all their money if they bought.
Well, I didn't put the second part of that in the inflection.
You didn't. No, you didn't. I'm commenting on that, and so I was wondering: were you intimating that, or was that just you were just stating a fact? And is that the type of stuff that you actually care to talk about, or is that just that's none of your business. All you care about is
No,
just getting the information out there and
I
helping
think that that's
people.
actually incredibly important. So what you're talking about specifically was the very first media mentions in mainstream television, movies, radio about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in 2014. And I was looking at The Good Wife and Silicon Valley, Bill Gates, the Winklevoss twins. And I was looking at this very specific group who were talking about cryptocurrency at that time. The Simpsons were even talking about cryptocurrency at that time. But if you pull demographic profiles of people who actually relate to that media and just take a look at them, put them in front of your eyes instead of looking at them like numbers, and then look at the people who actually were successful in the beginning of the bull run, people who invested early. These were what we might consider, or what the world was considering at the time, to be quote unquote nerds, hackers, criminals. And that's what was being portrayed in the media. But also the people who were investing and consuming this sort of media at the time. And I'm not necessarily saying that these people heard about it in the mainstream references. I'm saying that is the demographic who had access at the time. And they had that access both prior to sort of the media portrayal, because they were more of a tech savvy group to begin with. And the people who indulge in those medias were more of a tech savvy group to begin with. But there wasn't a lot of exposure for people who were not tech savvy. And I'm using the word tech savvy because it's a much more diplomatic way to describe the people who got in early, whereas the media was portraying them as nerds, hackers, and criminals.
Yeah. And you also said something in there that I about the Juicy J reference, and you kept saying "made it with no help," and I wanted to dig into that. About, is that something that you're just saying that he's referencing, like that's the persona that he's trying to push out there?
I didn't write that. That's a clip from the music video.
Yeah. But you were just referencing
so Juicy
it a couple
J
times.
had that up in the music video. So he was putting different images like that. I'm sorry, I'm not like citing the music video so perfectly right now. But it said like tech mogul. He made it with no help, that kind of thing. Yes.
Yeah.
You pointed that out, so that seemed to be that's what
I mean.
You're saying,
Michael,
right?
It seemed to be something that you
that's
noticed.
Kind of a theme.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry, that was
the purpose of that. Yeah, the purpose that I pointed that out for was because the Juicy J music video, it's called Let Me See. I believe it came out in February of 2019. It was a music video surrounding the EOS blockchain and blockchain technology, and they flashed these big images, made it with no help, tech mogul succeeds, and they were showing this portrayal of what you would normally see as a hip hop rap music video, only they were in offices, and they were doing, they were doing desk work, they were creating an empire sort of. And I used that specific example, made it with no help, as sort of an example to people, millennials specifically, who are in the gig economy right now, people who aren't making a lot of money at their everyday jobs, how this world of cryptocurrency and blockchain, how creating your own company, becoming your own investor, your own banker, all these opportunities are open to you now to help make you more successful, and how that portrayal actually assists us in expanding the space, because we're saying that anybody can do it. We're not saying that, this is too hard for you. We're being more welcoming to the fact that there is success to be had. And if you are hardworking and involved, something can happen. And I think a lot more portrayals like that are starting to come out.
So finally, I have a question. You mentioned that you've grown with your followers and fans, and your content has changed. How much of the content you're making now is still trying to get people interested in crypto, sort of evangelizing, and how much of it is actually creating stuff for the people who follow you? Is there a divide? Do you have to switch your brain on and off, or are you just kind of going with the flow at this point?
Well, I am definitely still advocating for cryptocurrency. That is obviously the number one. But I think that a lot of people make the misstep of forgetting that they are people too. And typically in any industry, if there's someone who's creating content and you're following them and interacting with them, you're not necessarily expecting everything that they post to be their content. So I try to be a little more myself, and I've been jumping, I think, out of that hole more recently with my virtual reality video and running around with my dog and just sort of being myself a little bit more than I had been. Because I feel like I have the opportunity to do it now. I feel like, it's a good time.
Is that just about connecting with your
It's a combination.
followers? So those types of videos, those are just to kind of connect with the people that you've connected with. Is that kind of what those are about?
It's also, to be fair, those types of videos, they're connecting, but they're connecting because I actually was having fun doing them, So it's stuff that I genuinely just sort of want to put out there. Like I made a video of me playing virtual reality and screaming. Does it advance the cryptocurrency space? No. Does it necessarily help me in achieving blockchain, anything? No, but I thought it was funny and fun. And it doesn't even necessarily have so much to do with my audience at that point. It was just, hey, I'm trapped in my house and I'm enjoying my life.
Yeah, I kind of disagree in that and one of the things that we wanted to talk to you about on the show is talking about the importance of people like you in the space, and the fact that you can actually make a fun video, dancing with your dog or whatever, that makes you human, and it makes you, you're still doing all the evangelizing and you're still talking to your audience. I think there's tons of room for that in the space, and that is evident in the amount of just absolute shit posting that goes on in crypto, and especially on Twitter. So I don't know. I think that your type of personality is so critical to the space that people actually see that, oh yeah, we're not just tech nerds, we actually have fun or whatever. So that's my piece on that.
Thank you. And that, I guess, was, the initial purpose with the Bitcoin songs. And that was sort of the stance that they were taking was, hey, we deserve to have a little fun. I'm just sort of expanding that idea. But it is important. I appreciate that.
How much of the work you do that you're doing right now is not only to grow the space, but to try to change the space into one that's more accepting and more, I guess, living in reality of the world it's going to become if it does become mainstream and we achieve mass adoption? Because it seems like the pushback you got when you went on on that TV show recently on Crypto Twitter was just like, what made me want to pull out my hair, because it's like, here's somebody who's actually,
it's me. It's literally only because it's me. And I say that with full confidence and no ego. No one would have freaked out if it was any of the other characters, albeit ones that they don't rag on all the time. They would have been horribly excited. Cite the Simpsons episode that came out 6 days later and everyone lost their shit, despite the fact, as I said earlier, the Simpsons have been talking about cryptocurrency since 2014 and MTV's never, ever done it before.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of nerve-wracking for me to hear these things about mass adoption, and then anytime there's any kind of breaching into a new space, it's like dragging 6-year-olds kicking and screaming into the future. It's like, you guys, what do you like? How do you expect for Bitcoin to moon if any time somebody goes into mainstream media and talks about it, you just sit there and just shit post nonstop and try to degrade them and like treat them like shit?
Well, what they also didn't realize they were doing was tagging MTV, filling up the SEO keywords. MTV's not going to want to do something else. MTV's going to take their time. Exactly. The MTV's impression of that was that the cryptocurrency community hated it, and screw telling a younger audience about cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
they don't care.
Yeah. And it's just,
I think it would be, it's negligent for people to believe that these larger networks aren't watching our community, that they're not watching the way that we're interacting, because they are. They absolutely are. any network, any major news source, any major media who's going to report or create content or media around cryptocurrency is going to do their research. And the fact of the matter is, if you type in Bitcoin on Twitter, you're going to find us. And so I think there really is something to be said to how we portray ourselves.
And it's frustrating because people, the narrative around the world is, oh, well, Twitter doesn't represent the world, and that is so it's such an uneducated standpoint, because Twitter is what is the representation of first adopters, and it's always the foreshadowing what will be mass adoption 5-10 years from now. And it's just been the case it happens with politics, it happens with technology, it happens with everything. Is Twitter seems to be the place where early adopters and critical thinkers are, and it kind of expands from there. That's why all politicians are on Twitter now. And you hear like, well, only 5% of America actually thinks that, and people are building laws around Twitter. It's like, well, because this is what people are thinking. People on Twitter are actually saying it out loud. And it's so true what you just said, because it's like, if these companies are looking to Twitter to hear about reactions, and if the own community is denigrating, MTV for putting you on there, no network is going to want to be more proactive of taking risks of doing that. So it's frustrating with how you got treated. And when you said it's because it was just you,
Yeah.
Just you as in your character, or just you as in a woman, or just you as in...
It's crypto, finally. And, it's interesting because what I do talk about is perception and portrayal. And there is a lot of perception out there, and everyone has generated their own perception. Sorry, 1 second. Computer was trying to do something funny. Everyone has generated their own perception, and it's really interesting because everyone's mind works differently, right? And when not everyone, again, I'm saying that word a lot, but when a lot of people jump into one group of thought, and that's where you're generating your information, it's easy for that to become your thought process as well. And you asked, is it because I'm a woman? It does play into it, I'm sure, but it's my overall character. And you asked, do I advocate for change? And I do advocate for change. And I think that a lot of people in this community aren't prepared for what that change looks like. And I think they can find it scary. I think it can be a major blow to a developer or a miner or someone who's created, a massive company with a great idea that hasn't taken off so far. It's not saying that they're not doing their parts. It's not saying that they're not contributing what we need to be contributed to the space, but it can be hard to see a young woman who comes in and does not do any of these things that are typically the standard to be involved in cryptocurrency and attract attention. And I have gotten a lot of negative press in that manner, but I sort of stand by the fact that I do not think that I've ever done anything outwardly offensive or mean, or destructive or malicious. I don't think that I've ever done anything like that. It's really just a perception that's been built around my character.
That's interesting because I have done all those things. I talk a lot of shit on Twitter. I talk a lot of shit about Bitcoin. I talk a lot of shit about Bitcoiners in general. And it's funny that I just take that for granted that I can do that. And if anybody stands up to me, I have no problem pushing back.
Oh, I mean, Twitter can push back sometimes when I think that I'm being funny or I have a few messages, types of messages that I say that will go far, and that will be something that whenever I write one of those inspirational tweets, it's not like a hokey moment. It's like me having a revelation in my bedroom. But stuff like that, people really enjoy to see me do. They don't love when I poke at people. Those are my least liked tweets. But something that I've noticed as well that I think a lot of the crypto Twitter community has sort of lacked is that sort of self-deprecating humor, while we love that in the United States, is not a global humor. And it's not a global way of interacting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And so as I attract more people, more followers who come from all over the world, I talk to people in the Philippines every day. I have followers in Indonesia, and Denmark, and India, and just all over the place. And I interact with all of them. I love to actually communicate with my community. But kindness crosses all borders, and gratuity, gratitude, and thankfulness. People recognize that all over the world. And again, pigeonholing ourselves in sort of self-deprecating humor, it accesses the United States, but it does not access the world.
Yeah, it's true. I have a lot of European friends, and they hate it when I'm self-deprecating or modest. It just drives them crazy, and they actually call me out on it. And it's funny that you say that. It's true. It's we have this kind of Western American centric idea of what crypto will be, and I think that's one of the frustrating things I come into contact with Bitcoin in general and crypto in general, is that the people who are designing it for Western civilization, American civilization most of all. And that doesn't cater to 99% of the world's population. And I get so frustrated when they don't seem to understand that. And so it's great that you are pushing back like that in a positive way, because I tend to push back in a negative way, and I probably get less result or worse results out of it in the end.
No, people like the humor, and men get to be funny on crypto Twitter. It's just a sad reality. But,
that's true.
Also, I think what's important when looking at ourselves as a global community, is understanding that a lot of these people come from different places. English is not always a first language. And a lot of accounts on Twitter will disregard these comments, and a lot of people will say this about me: "Oh, those are bots. Look at the way they're writing." A lot of my followers use Google Translate to communicate with me. A lot of my followers, I will translate from their original languages. We will have full conversations, and sometimes they are speaking in broken English, but they're taking the time out to speak a language that is not their first language, just to interact and talk about cryptocurrency, which I think is really cool. And I think it's really, honestly, racist and not awesome of most of the community to think that these people are bots. It kind of upsets me.
and the fact that the crypto community is so aggressive, and maybe it's not just the crypto community, maybe it's just Americans in general, English speakers in general, where the other person who knows multiple languages and talking us into a language that they weren't born learning feels the need to apologize and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, English isn't my first language." Don't apologize for being smarter than 99% of Americans. Like, it's ridiculous that we've created that kind of mentality where people need to apologize for knowing more than one language and being able to converse with somebody in a language that isn't their native tongue. It's crazy that the sheer ignorance that we push out there.
Well, so
I totally agree. I actually like when people write to me in languages other than English. I think it's super fun. And right on Twitter, you can translate it. I don't need to do much. But sometimes I'll go post it into Google and see like what dialect they're speaking from what part of the world. And it's all different languages from all different areas. And I just think it's so cool, honestly.
So the one thing that, so Keyword Crypto, this podcast, we're very critical of crypto, and we're very critical of Bitcoin. Even though we love it, we're enthusiasts. We are Bitcoiners ourselves. One of the things that drives us crazy, it drives me crazy about crypto, is this idea that it's an exclusive club, or that everybody has an idea of the way it should be. There's that word "should." There's this. Somebody comes along and makes a video about crypto that doesn't jive with your idea, and then all of a sudden you've got to slander it, or you have to, it's one of those things. It's like, how is it possibly going to grow? if there's this exclusive attitude about it and it's this club. And yeah, so I mean, I think that everyone needs to challenge that. We need to like see all kinds of ideas and content and languages, everything. So
Yeah, no, I agree. And sometimes, you'll see me just playing straight devil's advocate on Twitter. Sometimes when the mood all strikes one way, that's when I'll put out a tweet that examines it from an opposite point of view. Just because I think that people sort of deserve different messages, and I think that we are very, work centric. Tech centric, but it is important to reiterate that there's room for everybody here, and I believe that you communicate messages the strongest the longer that you stick to them and reiterate them. So I get this commentary that I say the same thing a lot, but I'm gonna keep saying it until everybody hears it, which is that we all belong here, and there isn't a standard to be involved. So that's just me.
So can I ask a personal question about that Charles Hoskinson picture? Because what I saw, I mean, was that you? Because everyone was saying it was you, but then I never really heard any kind of like finality.
You really just made me want to shut off your whole podcast.
No. I'm asking because in my mind, I saw that and I saw two friends hanging out and having fun, and the men in crypto went absolutely apeshit. And I'm like, what the hell is going on?
I'm going to just be honest with you. I have not acknowledged it once, and I'm not going to acknowledge it now because
all right.
Everyone is a fucktard, and I can't fucking deal with that. So that's not.
We can
I'm
agree
not
on
getting
that. Then we'll just move on and agree with you 100% on that.
Also, just for Charles Hoskinson is 32 years old, and I'm 27. Just for the record, just gonna throw that out there. That's all I'm gonna say. And no, I have no romantic relationship.
Okay. No, and I mean, but I think that goes back. I mean, we'll steer clear of that situation, but it also goes back to one of my issues with.
I mean, do you want to talk about me and Toad Vase? Like, this is fucking outrageous.
No, I don't. I honestly don't hear about a lot of this stuff, and that one kind of popped onto my radar, and it made my blood boil. How two people hanging out and having fun at a club, which is something I've done my entire life and not thought anything of it. That. Like the vast majority of men in the crypto space just went fucking ape shit. And
I will say that is true. That's the worst part of this whole thing for me is that this photo was taken and distributed by people who I know in the real world who were my real life friends.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
So this wasn't like it was. I literally went off Twitter. I didn't interact with any of this. I didn't interact with any of the MTV stuff. I didn't interact with anyone making fun of me in bikinis. I didn't, I learned to stop interacting because, like I said before, actually, this is a perfect cue back into what we talked about before. People on Twitter, followings and audiences are their own being. They breathe, they operate on their own. And, I'm a great example of that because as many times as I have managed to be talk of the town, I have not participated in it. I have not participated in the dialogue. It has never come from me. It is completely generated by people who have seen me on the internet.
Well, I will give you props for not falling into the Barbra Streisand effect, and I feel like the two times you came. So before I knew who you were and before I followed you, I heard about you twice, and it was because of the MTV and because of that picture. And both times they both disappeared within about 3 days.
Yeah. I have a good cycle on that. So those aren't the only times something like this has happened to me, first off. I think just the largest. They get bigger as they come. Lucky for me, there was a global pandemic shortly after. It literally happened that way, by the way. Look at the timeline. It really, really hard fucking 2 weeks for me. So yeah, all of that, what you just described occurred in about 8 days time. It all happened in the same 8 days. And you know, what was going on with me, with people trying to make personal comments about me, you know, it was a direct correlation to the MTV thing. The original post that was put up, that was basically just calling me a slut, very openly, was made by Chico Crypto, who has 20,000 followers. Now, I can show you several photos of me and Chico Crypto hanging out, having a great time together. It was posted by Chico Crypto, and I called him, and he screamed at me. And this is the first time I've spoken about this. Chico Crypto screamed at me on the phone. I called him on the phone and he answered. And I said, Chico, like Tyler, I said, Tyler, why did you post that about me? That's really not cool. And I kid you fucking not, he starts on the phone screaming, I'm Chico Crypto. I'm sorry, I just messed with your guys' sound. I'm Chico Crypto. I do what I want. I literally said, bro, like, I'm not doing this with you, and hung up on him. But like the crazy fucking shit I'm cursing a lot now. The crazy shit in this community, I swear to God. So Chico didn't even take that picture. Ken Bosak took that picture. And I know you know that I was friends with Ken Bosak. But yeah, and then it just all tumbled out of fucking control. But 3 days is about the amount of time it takes. So Chico, 3 days, BitLord, 3 more days. Then people start to, instead of observing the incident, observe your reaction to it. And the comments start changing from insulting you to, wow, this girl's doing a stand-up job because all I see is this horrible stuff. But then it also sort of gets a little bit ego-y. I'm going to say him by name, Jacob Canfield, who I really appreciated his sentiment here, made a post that got quite a lot of engagement, saying, hey, I see that the people on the internet are bullying Crypto finally again. She's a nice young woman. I have a friend who committed suicide. Wouldn't want to see that happen to her. And I think that people took away, God bless his friend, God bless him. I'm not trying to take any of that away, or the feelings that he was feeling. But the only good posts that I see in the beginning of a wreck like that are people suggesting that I'm going to commit suicide. And that is not support. So it was a long, long week. But I, again, not getting down on it. It's something that I've been through, something that I understand. It's hard. You need to step off the internet. I've done it before. Everyone remembers the bikini keynote.
Well, I mean, I think I just wanted to congratulate you on that. And I was hesitant to bring it up, but at the same time, Crypto Gem posted something a couple days ago about women being attacked in the crypto Twitter space.
You know what's funny is I feel like we've just opened up this door. Crypto Gem has never been nice to me. She's had me blocked since the bikini keynote tweet.
What is with all the self-serving?
I'm dead serious. She blocked me. I remember because it was during the hurricane and I was in a car driving back from Florida towards New York, and I was in the gas station and I noticed from my other accounts like something happened, and I went to go look, and Crypto Gem had blocked me. It was the 3 days after the bikini keynote tweet, where basically all I said was, hey, I post bikini pictures on Twitter, but I also give keynotes. Fuck yeah, crypto is what we want it to be. And everyone was like, fuck this girl and her bikini pictures. Anyway, Gem blocked me and hasn't had anything nice to say about me ever.
Wow. See, I mean, I'm really out of it when it comes to kind of like the he said, she said stuff. So I try to avoid it like the plague. And that's
I dare her to say she said something nice about me. Like, bring the receipts. Anyway, I'm not out here like bashing anybody specifically. Because you know what? For all I know, she has a great page. I just haven't had access to it ever.
I try to. I definitely tried not to block too many people, just for that reason, because I think stuff out of context or I'm having a bad day, and so I try to give people the benefit of the doubt usually. But that's not cool. That's frustrating. It's frustrating like that it's becoming high school.
Listen, I support all the women in the space. I really do, because I think it's so important that we have a footprint here. Whether or not they agree with me, whether or not I agree with them, that's humanity. That's us not being women. That's us being people. So I accept them and I welcome them and I'm inclusive to them in the space. But I do have to say that I have seen many women in the space who preach about inclusivity and women's rights do the exact thing to me that they are telling people not to do to them. So I will just say that. And that's true of, and I hate to say it, at least 30% of the big female accounts.
Wow.
Wow.
So have a conversation about me with them behind closed doors, and I promise you'll hear everything you want to.
Oh God.
Well,
Yeah, that's-
we
I mean-
really.
Go
We
ahead,
really
Jimmy, sorry.
stay like we're not really concerned with the kind of the crypto pop accounts, I guess you call them. I mean, we're this show we don't even really chase followers. We're doing what we want. We're doing what we love. We talk to the people that we're interested in. But I'm kind of speechless because like the amount of crap that you've gone through is, I don't even know what to say. I'm kind of like fully a Crypto Finally fan at this point. Just on hearing what you're talking about and your opinions about it is, I mean,
Thank
I don't know.
you.
Michael, take over. I don't know what else
Yeah,
to
I
say.
mean, I feel like as fellow artists, we both do different. Like all three of us do different things, but we're all artists, and we're all trying to bring our art in some way into the space, and for the sole purpose of getting other people interested in it, to help the space grow, and to get into to see the amount of pushback that people give is just mind-numbing, because we choose not to prescribe to it has to be ABC and that's it. And if it's not ABC, it's fucking a shit coin, and and you're a scammer, and it's garbage, and fuck you, and blah blah, and block 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 block. And it's just like I mean, what you said is really important for the crypto community to not only hear but fully understand, and really get it into the root of their brain, is that the rest of the world is watching us, and if they see that's how we react to stuff, they're not going to want to participate.
And more than that, I think this is a really hard truth. But as big as any of us are now, this is again talking about the big accounts, myself included. If cryptocurrency, blockchain technology ever truly achieves global adoption in the respect that we want it to, prepare to become very small, very quick. Whatever ideology any of us have that we are a big dog and we're going to keep being a big dog when this hits mass adoption is absurd. So inclusivity does matter here. And I'm with you on the sort of being interested in people and characters over people with followings or audiences. 99% of the interaction I do with on Twitter are people with under 1,000 followers, because that's where the community is. And that's where the mass majority of the community is. So I don't run in a clique of 20 influencers with 20,000 followers and we all talk to each other every day. I'm actually actively trying to interact with the larger community.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised because normally when we reach out to certain people, it's always just like, oh yeah, sometime, or oh, I'm too busy right now, or and because we are a smaller podcast, we do have a very specific goal in mind that not a lot of people in the cryptocurrency space because we are critical.
I'm sorry, my dog is barking.
That's okay.
Can you
It's
hear
all right.
that?
We like dogs.
Okay.
Yeah, we're a dog friendly podcast.
Okay.
It's hard to be critical and inquisitive of something that everybody just wants to see a certain way. Michael, that's what you were saying. Like,
yeah, and I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. We're a dog friendly podcast, and it's coffee talk. We're just hanging out, having a good time. So,
No, you remember is you really like dogs.
So where do you see yourself going in the next? Like, do you have like specific goals or things you want to shoot for in the next, like after the pandemic's over? If the planet comes back to life.
I really just want to keep doing more of what I'm doing now, which is interacting with the community, getting out there. I really do enjoy crypto conferences. I might start going to a little bit less of them, just for my own sanity.
We don't go to them. We've never been to one for that reason. They kind of seem insane.
Like
and I imagine that if you do have a following and you do have people watching you, especially if people are going to give you shit for doing things that normal people do, that's got to be, you got to do something to keep your sanity.
To be honest, like Crypto Finally is such a ridiculous, I'm Crypto Finally, but it's like, I'm also Rachel, and like Rachel's like super emotional. And I'm going to be honest, I actually think that all of the crypto influencers, like almost everyone who's ever been to a conference has seen me cry at one point or another. Like literally, it just like that's what goes, like eventually I hit a fucking breaking point at all of these events, because this stuff that happens on the internet, it doesn't stay on the internet, and seeing it in real life is fucking hard. And it can be. And I just like, I've had it. I have avatars with cartoon faces who have sent me photos of myself like sitting on a lawn outside a conference before. Don't know who took the fucking photo.
Oh my God.
Crazy stuff like that. It's stressful.
Well, what?
I've had like straight stalker-esque people who send me hundreds of messages, show up place to place, like finding me, interrupting business meetings. I swear to God. And it gets stressful. The whole thing gets stressful. The clicks get stressful.
It's stressful because everyone has an opinion.
It's stressful because I think of the way that we're operating now. There's always such an inclusive group, and I love to find them, but they are not the influencers. It is not the influencers. And you take the time out to make friends with people who you don't recognize, it's going to be a better bet for you.
Man, the first question the first thing I said today to you was, it takes a lot of guts to make a parody about Bitcoin. And now I'm sitting here thinking, like, I don't even like publishing a podcast if my voice sounds weird.
It's true.
And you're on the front lines crying at
crying in front of everybody. I swear to God.
It's amazing.
I remember like literally 3 different bars. Like, all crypto events. More than that. Wow, that was an understatement.
Wow.
So people listening to this realize that, everyone's human. Everyone's a human being.
People are human. They really are. Shout out Bits and Tokens, Blockchain Education Network, for letting me lie on the floor and sob 2 a.m. after crypto events. But yeah, and you know what? I don't like feel bad about that, and I don't feel necessarily embarrassed about that either. I think that people are people, and we're all different people. And we need more crying girls, in my opinion. I don't care what anyone has to say about that comment either.
And we need more. Hey, Richard Hart got caught crying, and that's been a meme. So we need more crying people in general, because it just shows the reality of the space, how toxic it can be.
We need more crying people.
Everyone to, because no one's as happy as all their tweets.
Exactly. So. We should have like a crying Friday or something like that, where everybody posts a video of them crying about something.
just some sincerity. Just get everyone on the same wavelength if possible. Well, that's impossible, of course.
Yeah, that's.
To be fair though, I also like I cry during like all competitive reality television, and it doesn't matter what they're competing for.
Oh, man, that sounds great.
All of it, because, and this is actually a really cute reason. It's adorable of me. I didn't think how adorable it is of me, but it's because I love watching people's dreams come true.
That's
I
amazing.
cried throughout every episode of competitive reality television because they're dreams. Because it was an everyday person. I'm going to cry right now because it was an everyday person who got plucked out of their everyday life. And it's amazing.
That's great. Hey, look, there's nothing wrong with crying, everybody out there. I watched Notting Hill last night for like the 10,000th time and cried a little bit. So
I think we're probably going to title this podcast "We All Need More Crying in
Yeah.
Crypto." So
I was crying watching CNN earlier today.
well, it's very sad.
I was like, this is
It's
it.
very sad.
This is it. And then listen, I'm not even, this isn't a political statement. This isn't me saying I was voting for Bernie, but Bernie dropped out.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, everyone's giving up.
Yeah.
that made me so sad when I read that this morning. Oh,
So
I cried through Bernie's speech today too.
man,
Like crypto finally cries all the time is the caption for this podcast.
I mean, if you're not crying at least once a day right now with everything that's going on, there's something wrong inside of you. And so,
Well, no, what's going to happen is you're going to lash out on your loved ones.
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
that's it. That's exactly what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
keep your loved ones and pets away.
yeah. Or keep them close and just cry and let it all out. Let it all out naturally.
It's sunny disposition. It matters.
So speaking of the quarantine and the virus, and talking about conferences, how does your crypto world look now? I mean, you're doing live streams, you're making videos, you're on Periscope. I mean, the quarantine came so suddenly, everything got canceled. So, when we ask what's the future look like for crypto finally, what's the present look like for crypto finally? Is it like, are you just going to kind of continue to do the same thing, or what? Have you been coming up with a plan for how to get your content out there?
Well, I actually think based on what you just said to me, I've been doing a very successful job at altering my plan to get content out there because I actually only started doing personal live streams and live streams with Girl Gone Crypto during this quarantine. I had never before done a real live stream by myself until last week.
Nice.
It was the very first time that I had done it, but I am trying to get it out there. So that's part of, obviously marketing and, getting your content out there is getting an awareness of the fact that you're doing something at all. And so that's what I've been trying to sort of achieve with these live streams recently is just letting people know, hey, this is something that I'm starting to do. And you can expect it regularly from me. So more live streams for sure. I want to do more virtual reality just because I had so much fun the other day. And also sort of expanding our niches. There is a great overlap of the community who's interested in gaming, virtual reality, who's also interested in cryptocurrency. And I don't, again, think we need to be so pigeonholed. So I'm doing some more VR stuff, as well as looking at a new live stream series myself, now that I've started streaming on my own. Where I talk about Bitcoin and media and pull new examples. And, how does this affect us? How was it perceived and reacted to? So that's something that I'm looking to do. And funnily enough, because as I can apparently, and as you've seen for the last 52 minutes, I can talk your ear off. When I'm talking to other people, I can talk your friggin' ear off. I can probably go off like this for 25 whole minutes of this. But when I'm by myself in a live stream, I really struggle to get past like 6 minutes of talking.
It's hard,
Yeah.
It's hard. It is hard.
So that's something that I'm working
Yeah,
on.
I'm a teacher, so all my classes are now online. And when I don't get interaction with my students, I feel like I'm basically live streaming, and it's really hard to sit there and talk for 3 hours. So trying to do it for any amount of time is tough.
3 hours. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And for the audience, to be fair, because of the pandemic, Rachel had some Amazon shipments not come on time, and so she's doing a makeshift recording studio, and she can't hear us a lot, and so a lot of it is we have to wait for her to finish before we interrupt because she won't be able to hear us because her speaker is so far away, so we don't get feedback. So it's not because she just talks a lot. She's actually been
It was a
really,
guest. Really diplomatic way of saying that I'm loud.
No, not at all. We love
loud.
having guests like you. It's like, because we've had some guests, we got to kind of like drag them along and get information about it. But
I
you're
barely had
obviously
to ask any questions. Yeah.
no, it's fun.
I gotta say, as hosts, thank you for not asking my favorite token, how I think the halving is going to affect Bitcoin and what the future looks like in 5 to 10 years.
We try not to talk about price on this podcast because at that point it's just kind of like a circle jerk because who knows? I really like what you said about your video earlier is in your keynote you talk about what actually happened and it's facts versus talking about the future. At that point everyone's just kind of guessing and stroking their own ego. And it's just like what's the point of that? Let's talk about what's actually happening now and what we can do to address things and that's what we're critical about is like what are the problems we're actually facing day to day and how can we address those? And so I'm glad you came on because it's been rubbing me the wrong way about how certain people have been treated in this space, and I definitely felt like it needed to be addressed even on smaller podcasts. So I'm really thankful that you came on to talk about it.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, cool.
As you can tell, I like to talk a lot too.
This was fun. You guys are great.
I'm usually the one talking the most, and this one I'm just like, man, this is great. I just want to sit here and listen.
I have lots of things to say. It's surprising how many more things there are to say when you're actually talking about real life and not just a market cycle.
Yes, yes. And that's why we try to keep it like the coffee talk, just chilling around a coffee table, talking about stuff, and it makes it a little also more just interesting to listen to versus, when moon.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess we can wrap it up unless there's something you want to talk about.
I think I've addressed quite a few things. Everyone should just be nice to each other. That's the takeaway of this whole conversation.
Oh, there you have it, everyone. Crypto finally says, just be nice to each other. That's the takeaway.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you made it this far, thanks for making it this far. Check out our other episodes. We've been doing these shows for almost 2 years now, so we've got a ton of episodes in the archive. Check out our website, www.keywordcrypto.com, and there you can support us by checking out our Patreon page. We're fully listener supported. We don't take any money from sponsors as of now, maybe in the future. And that's it. At Keyword Crypto on Twitter, and follow us, reach out to us, say hello. Thanks everyone, and stay safe.